and they're breaking down because your generation, our generation, is working together with technologies like Facebook and Twitter to communicate with each other, to create a world that's transparent, that it's harder and harder to have the kind of corruption and control of society and people's dreams and lives. To me, life is about freedom. It's about pursuing your dreams and also connecting with each other. There's a Persian poet named Sadi who has a poem that I always think about, which is, it says, humanity is all one body, and when one part of that body is in pain, you can't call yourself a human if you do not feel that pain and respond and act. And I think that quote says a lot about why each of you is here, and the energy that is very obvious here in this room of hope, of all of you wanting to connect with us and with each other. And so I call on you to continue to connect. And if you have dreams, please follow up with us on Twitter here today after the meeting, and tell us what your dreams are and how we can help you in any way.
I want to actually take a slightly different tack and follow up a little more on what Ashton said. And I'm going to ask a series of questions. How many of you think life is going to be better for your children than it is for you?
Do any of you have children yet?
How many of you think it's going to be worse for your children than it is for you?
Ecologically, yes.
Ecologically, yes. Okay. Well, so I got to ask, how many of you think you have a better life than your parents? Okay, that's encouraging, but I didn't see that many hands say they think their children are going to have a better life. And it goes back to what Ashton said. It's not just ending corruption, it's also ending ecological problems, many of which are due to corruption. The thing I'd like to say is this isn't easy. We're sitting up here, it sounds really great. We're American, we have dreams, but if you go back, his parents had a tough time getting out of Iran. Padma Sharif came with no money to the United States. Most of us are lucky in the United States. We don't need a lot of courage. But it's courage that you need. You need to take a risk. Because if you don't take risks, the problems will continue. I spent a long time here in Russia. I heard a story from a banker who has no interest in talking about corruption or problems or anything else. I asked him a very business question. When people apply for a credit card, is there enough information? And he said, yes, there's usually some information, but you know something interesting? When we thought how we would grant credit, we assumed if somebody had a police record, we would not give them credit. But then we discovered half of the people who applied for credit had a police record. Probably one half of that half were bad people. The other half were probably people who had courage and who refused to pay bribes. They are the people who are going to change this country, who take risks and who have courage.
Thank you. Can I just ask another question? One of the things that you have an opportunity to do is create social good through the social goods that you create. And my wife and I started a foundation to combat human trafficking. And I was wondering how many of you do charity work, like in your community, volunteer work in your community, and outside of school, how many of you would not what's demanded by school? How many of you personally do volunteer work? Same. How many of you are building technology solutions for the needs of volunteer organizations? Did you know that if you combine all of the nonprofit organizations, the NGOs in the world, it's the 5th largest economy of any country in the world. It'd be the 5th largest economy in the world. And sometimes, it doesn't appear as if doing social good has returns, because you give and you go, all right, when I give, what am I getting back? And sometimes it doesn't appear as if anything it doesn't appear as if you're getting anything back. But everybody here who is a science student, who has studied Newton's principle of every action has an equal and opposite reaction, knows that ultimately any act of giving will have that equal act of return. And the interesting thing that I found, well, one of the things I do, and the reason I'm here, is not to send an actor to Russia, but I have a company called Catalyst. I help major companies, commercial goods companies and philanthropic organizations learn to use social tools in an effort to benefit their companies. And one of the things that we've done is learn that by using and creating new social tools for these NGOs or private volunteer organizations, we actually do ultimately see great financial return for the organization and for our technologies. And one of the things that I would encourage you to do is, as you look out in the world and you're building the things that you're building, build them to solve existing problems. And a great way to do that is find NGOs, find nonprofit organizations that have identified a problem, like human trafficking. 170,000 girls are trafficked out of Russia every year into slavery. 170,000 girls. Solve their problem. If you solve their problem, you're solving a global problem. And if you solve that global problem, people will pay for it. And you'll create profitable companies, profitable technologies. And so be sure that as you're building these things to look at those organizations, because they become a great means. Not to mention the fact that most U.S. organizations and companies have aligned themselves with certain NGOs. And they use those NGOs to enter into the social platforms. And they'll track you down, they'll track down your technology, and they'll start using their technology for their means as well, and you'll become a much more profitable company.
Here.
Mr. Lehman?
Can I ask, excuse me. Who's up? Did you want to say something? Can I ask the students who raised their hands when you were asked, do you volunteer for a cause? Could some of you just stand up and in 30 seconds explain what you do, what you volunteer for, and why you do it? I think you were one who raised your hand.
Okay, so raise your hand.